Welcome to Not Serious Wine Chats. I'm Mauve. Today, Pete, John and Ash join me to talk about that overly talked about topic, natural wine. Naturally, we enjoy a glass or two while riffing on the pros and cons. Along the way, we mention some producers, a movie and some wine terms. You'll find those listed on the website after the chat. So pour yourself something delicious and enjoy.
Shall I get some wine open?
That's a good idea.
yeah,
Absolutely
very
good
good.
idea.
Start with.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
For me, natural wine has become, over the last sort of decade, a lot more clearer, although I still, a lot of people find it hard to determine because it's not regulated. But for me, first and foremost, grapes from organically farmed vineyards, and then the next step for me is that it's wild yeast is used for the fermentation processes.
Yep.
And then from then on in, it's minimal additives, unfined and unfiltered wines.
Yeah.
So that's what I sort of take natural wine as to be.
Yeah. And what about you, Pete? Is there anything there that you disagree with or?
No, technically I think it's pretty accepted that organic grapes, nothing added, nothing taken out.
Yeah.
I think from then, and that's where it all gets a bit hazy, is that because there's no like universal definition of what it is.
No.
And I think that there's a whole lot of wine that just gets put into the natural wine thing because it's different, because it doesn't say what it does on the label, because it might be unfiltered. So I think there's a lot of like assumptions about what natural wine is, and I think that that there's a really tiny proportion of actual natural wine, and there's a lot of wines that sort of sit close to it.
Does natural wine, though, have to be from organic grapes? Because
there's no actual, like, if you say your wine's natural, there's no one verifying that.
Yeah.
Like
so if I'm a
organics.
winemaker, for example, I decide to get some grapes from somewhere, I make wine in a style that's hands-off, unfined, unfiltered. Essentially, that just coming to my definition, I feel like that would be natural wine to me.
You think that, are you sort of talking about natural wine as
being this orange,
style?
cloudy, I think that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Whereas I think at its heart, natural wine is a real ethos, in the same way that organic biodynamic wines are. I think the other big thing about natural wine for me, in terms of where I put it, is that it's a movement that was very disruptive to a quite conventional industry.
Yeah.
And that's what, it's really the pointy end of change, which I think is, when you said we're going to talk about natural wine today, a little bit of me groaned.
Yeah.
Because,
it's just like a conversation that you think is almost been done to death, but you're like, you still... Actually, there's those people out there that still think it's a bit of a novelty, or it is so binary. You either like it or you don't like it.
And I also think you guys have sort of recently relocated to Aotearoa from Australia, and we're probably about 5 to 10 years behind the movement, I think, from what I can tell.
Definitely from a consumer perspective, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I suppose from a consumer's perspective,
exactly.
Consumers would naturally think that natural wine is from organic grapes.
Yeah, I think so too.
But I suppose the problem is it's such a broad term, umbrella term, and there's no regulation, right, around that viticulture, winemaking.
The French,
link.
I think the French
French,
AOC have just recently done a sort of a confirmed created a confirmed category now, which does define their philosophy of natural wine, which I think is definitely organic fruit. No additives, but I think you are allowed sulphur, are you?
Yeah.
There's 2 tiers, so there's no added sulfites at all, and then there's less than 30 parts per million. So it's, but even that's been fraught because they're testing it on amount of sulfites, but there are producers whose wines naturally have greater than 30 parts, so they're not allowed to. So it's already controversial.
I was going to ask, if we could actually go into, if that's a good segue into sulphur, like, can you talk about...
Well, sulphur's kind of almost like the driving buzzword, isn't it?
Well, you know, you have some people that are like, no, I will only drink wines with no sulphur, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But...
Which is
interesting. Someone talk...
There's naturally occurring sulfites in all grapes. So any wine is always going to have sulphur in it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's maybe
And a qualification too around when we start talking about things like 30 parts per million or 70 parts per million.
Yeah, that means absolutely nothing to me.
That's right. To put that into context, by the time you're drinking a glass of wine from a bottle that has even 100 parts per million sulphite in it or sulphur measurement in it, it's so trace that it would be less than having a single dried apricot.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's
right.
And across the wine industry, there's no other preservative has been found to be as effective in that smaller quantities without having an effect on the quality of the wine than sulphur has.
So it's almost a marketing
well, I think it also
buzzword a bit that people are kind of latching onto, do you think?
To bring it back to the sort of question, what is natural wine? Like for me, it's all about the removing of using additives in your processing of wine. And I think...
You're not adding anything in.
Yeah, and I think sulphur has copped a real absolute bad rap in terms of that, you know. It's definitely the scapegoat of sort of additives in wine.
That's right. There's worse wine crimes.
Absolutely.
Than sulphur in your glass.
Then 20 parts,
which is trace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it does sort of come back again to that sort of obsession with sulfites is a distraction from really what I think, again, is at the heart of the movement that, you know, especially the modern natural wine movement through the 80s. I think it kicked off in Beaujolais with a few producers there, and it was really like going against what was quite a homogenous commercial winemaking style in France, and there's a group of producers who just wanted to escape from that. And there's actually a really charming movie called Vino. Have you seen that?
Yes, yeah.
And it sort of really highlighted that well. So it comes back to a lot of ethos.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's why, I actually probably don't think it should necessarily be certified, because where's the sense of sort of freedom around certifying it? Because it really was about breaking out from convention.
I guess that's the hard part though, isn't it? Is when you're standing in a wine store and you don't really know much about wine and you're trying to expand your horizons a little bit, what are the guiding forces that help you broaden?
Where do you start? What are those things to look out for?
Yeah. And the natural... I definitely, that's what I do love about the natural wine movement is the fact that it has introduced some energy and innovation and kind of challenge to what was sort of very stuck in its tradition.
Oh, snooze.
Right?
It's funny actually, before we started By the Bottle, like Pete and John sort of came from quite different perspectives on natural wine, and I feel like we've actually met in the middle.
We really have. Yeah. I've been on such a roller coaster where I was in London in the early 2000s working there and going to these tastings, and these wines were like so exciting. And then we started going, the bloody bretty or the faulty, and so that became this hang up. And I remember me and sort of other wine professionals got really hooked up on faults. Yeah. So you're always tasting looking for faults. Yeah. And then I became really kind of quite classical about what I was tasting. Yeah. And now I think I've totally mellowed out. Thank God.
Yeah. But I think that's sort of a reasonable. I think that's a reasonable journey, because it has sort of felt like there's sort of a tedium with the kind of the same old being banged out.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where that innovation and sort of exciting new artwork on labels and kind of the rule book was thrown out. It doesn't have to look French. It doesn't have to have anything written on it. Fuck it was a beautiful painting. I'm just going to jab that on the front of my bottle.
Yeah.
But I guess that's a volume thing too, right? And chances are someone that can afford to be that flexible with how they produce their wine, not just from growing grapes and making wine, but, you know, what that looks like on the outside of the bottle, is the commercial aspect of that is they're probably selling locally too.
Yeah.
So the wine's not having to be shipped anywhere.
It's global sort of market.
Well, you know, and the quality. So, I mean, trying to send a bottle of natural wine with no sulphur or very low sulphur to the other side of the world and know that it's going to turn up tasting all right is a bloody big gamble.
It's risky.
Really risky. And so, you know, winemakers who have spent this entire year to wait for those 3 days when that one vine puts out, that's a big call to make that juice into wine that's really delicious and represents everything that a philosophy that you've been working to, and then have it arrive tasting shitty because it just didn't have that tiny little bit of preservative in it. Like, what a shame.
Totally.
But, you know, that's a whole year's worth of work gone down the toilet.
100%. I think the thing that I love about it is it's just speaking to exactly that, is a lot of natural wines can be hyper local. So,
Yeah,
you know, you look
totally.
at someone like
Kind of should be.
100%, like Gravel Down, who's doing some amazing stuff. Is it West Auckland?
Yeah, he uses a vineyard in Henderson, organic vineyard in
Yeah,
Henderson.
which, you know, and his
awesome.
wines
Yeah.
are delicious.
Yeah,
And I think the thing is, it's also bringing in a completely different set of people into the wine space. So it's sort of breaking down those barriers, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Making it a bit more democratic, if I can say that.
yeah, and bringing a new generation.
Yeah, are excited about wine, excited about, you know, new styles, and it's not just for, you know, stuffy old.
Rich old people.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I think it's definitely got those connotations. But on that, and this is partly why I had probably in my initial journey on natural wine, was I actually felt so desperately sorry for people who had effectively been making natural wine for the last 30 years in New Zealand. But because they were established and because they, you know, were kind of already on wine lists and things, they were immediately kind of chucked into this kind of, you know, conventional, they're the old guys, they're the old guard, so therefore they don't make natural wine. You know, Hans Herzog, Claire Allen, like these people that have been making wine, Nick Mills at Ripon, you know, for years.
Pete worked with Herzogs. Was that your first wine?
No, it was my first. No, it wasn't. It was my second sommelier role. I worked, as their som in their restaurant. And Therese makes that point that technically their fruit comes off their beautiful organic vineyard.
Yeah.
And there's nothing added, nothing taken out. And then very minimal sulphide and bottling. Technically, they're natural wines, but they definitely, from a consumer perspective, don't sit. And I would say, even from a wine trade perspective, you know, sommeliers wouldn't be putting them in that.
Well, now it almost
bracket.
comes down to, back to the label sort of thing, it almost comes down to the label and look and feel. You know, you can walk into a wine store and a lot of the times you probably can pick whether a wine is natural or not.
It's kind of the anti-wank factor too, right? Like people, you know, sort of seeing these really established barrel rooms that look really sort of old-fashioned and beautiful. I mean, the barrel room at Herzog is something to behold. Like it's absolutely stunning, beautiful. It just looks like you've stepped back 500 years. And for all the right reasons, it looks amazing. But it does perhaps lean to the fact that it feels unapproachable or not inclusive of, you know, if you've got $20 in your pocket, you know, and you want to try a lovely wine, can you buy one? And maybe that's part of the, you know, I remember talking to some Aussie media about the natural wine movement, and they said, look, these guys rocked up in their stubbies and their jandals to a tasting when everyone else was in navy blazers and, you know, like fucking tan chinos. and so immediately half the room of wait staff who were there to love and buy and try new wines were just like, who are those cats? I want what they're having because
Yeah.
that looks fuck. I mean, I'm in my stubbies and my jandals, like it sort of felt very approachable, accessible, and
It's so true. Like one of my good friends over in Australia, he is like a metalhead. He wears singlets. He's exactly what you're talking about. He's like, he swears and he's like, but he is just an absolute weapon when it comes to wine.
Yeah.
And not even natural wine. It's everything.
Shout out to
little Mark Williams.
Mark Williams.
But like he was a great example of that for me. Where it's like, and in turn he told me stories of going to restaurants and just being looked over when sommeliers were talking to him. But then he was drinking.
He has got a
wine.
really good way of talking about wine, actually. I loved hearing him talk about wine. He works for Meatsmith now, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But it's that sort of, it is that sort of thing where how do we make sure that you transcend both worlds, because they're both to be celebrated, and actually you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think what I and this is why I groaned when we sort of talked about the idea of, is that, and I'm going to sound like a real wanker here, but I'm post natural wine.
You're over it. You've been there, done that. You're out the other side. Wow.
I think that there's just so much so much grey area, isn't there?
Yeah.
And back to the point of
Stop trying to define it. Is that sort of where you?
Well,
especially our industry, the wine industry, loves to put things in a box. Loves to label things like
what is it? Is that I mean, even for us, we've got customers that are like literally order it with us like on a monthly basis, and we'll say no natural wines.
No natural wines, and only Chardonnay and Sauvignon. we can't even give them something that maybe resembles a full textured white like Chardonnay does.
But it's funny, natural wine sort of does what's nothing at all. But they're saying like natural wine sort of does what, say for example, something like Sauvignon Blanc does. You either drink Sauvignon Blanc or you don't.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
It's
like,
so binary.
Oh, yeah, so binary. Like, I don't drink Sauvignon Blanc.
Which is such a shocker, isn't it? Because there will be a Sauvignon Blanc, like a Poulet Fumé or something that's been, for the normies out there.
Being so black and white.
God, it's absolutely fucking delicious.
About it is quite funny. And I feel like natural wine has definitely done that. It's polarised people. People are either one or the other, I find.
Yeah, and it would be interesting to know, because I definitely agree, but then has it also done the opposite, where it's brought in people who are like, oh man, I can't be stuffed with wine. I just drink, gin and tonic, or I almost never go, I just have a beer, or, because I can't grapple with wine. It's too fucking hard to understand. When instead, recently in the last, sort of, I don't know, 5 or 10 years, they've been confronted with things that actually look quite cool, quite interesting.
Enter Petnat.
Totally.
Enter Petnat.
Yeah, it's like juice for people that don't like wine.
Yeah. That's right. And that
could be drinking cider, you could be drinking...
but that's where that definition thing is about letting go of all of those definitions, isn't it?
Yeah.
The only point I want to make here, though, is that this is why I get a bit frustrated with natural wine, is because there's been some really exciting developments in terms of style, Petnat being one and orange wine being the other, that have just been wrapped up as natural wines.
I was just about to
I think they can be beautiful styles regardless of whether they're natural or
100%. If you say Petnat, like if you present a Petnat to, I would say, most of the population, they would umbrella that as a natural wine.
Exactly.
Let alone it being the oldest form of sparkling in the world.
Yeah, I know. See, that's the heartbreak, isn't it? Is that the sort of this whole sort of stigma of which camp you sit in means you alienate and miss out on a whole lot of really great gear out there because you're writing it off as something. That's
the point. That's the crux of it, right? You're just like, you're missing out on a lot of really great wines.
I definitely know when natural wine, I mean, I just wasn't introduced to it in a great way. I just kept getting wines that were just like, fuck, that is not delicious. Like, I do not enjoy that, man. I don't know why you drink a bottle of that, because I'm barely managing to get a glass down. And they were good with food and stuff like that. I mean, I pretty much always have food with any drink, but it's like, I mean, I just don't want to. I just
whack, like absolutely.
And I can't handle like that sort of mousy, farmyardy thing that everybody takes the piss out of natural wine for. It was so evident that it was like, this stinks, man. It's urine. It's urinal.
In both look and
I might as well be in the men's room, trying to drink a glass of wine here, and it's like I'm drinking less and less alcohol, full stop, and so then when I do drink alcohol, I'm really happy to spend a wad of cash and drink something that absolutely floats my boat.
It's going to be delicious.
Yeah, and I am prepared to take a gamble, but that's the problem. My initial introduction to natural wine wasn't a great journey, and so I became really anti it, especially too because I was doing a lot of work with the Hans Hutzogs or the Claire Allens, whoever vineyards of the world, where you've kind of got that.
You've got a lot of the elements to natural wine, but they're making this beautiful, pristine,
And they don't release a wine that's cloudy simply for the fact that they just let it rest in the cellar for longer.
Yeah.
Like literally they don't do it's not like they've done anything more to the wine or less to the wine than the natural winemaker. They just hold on to it for longer.
They allow time to do a bit more of the work.
Yeah, and that's sort of that part of winemaking which I fucking love because there's no other beverage really in the world, maybe apart from tequila and mezcal, at least in my education, that kind of take that much time to. I mean, it is crazy to think how much time it takes.
And a lot of people forget that. And so when you're buying your, $10 bottle from the supermarket, it's just actually not possible. To make something
massively bulk and
do you know what I mean? Like when you're considering the time and everything that goes into making wine, producing a bottle for $10 just does not make sense.
Doesn't add up.
Yeah, something's wrong here.
Speaking of drinking of wine, can you, Pete, run us through what you might have heard Pete pouring a bit of wine around?
This is Halcyon Days. So this is
is this Ollie Styles?
Yeah, Ollie Styles, Amy Hopkinson,
Yes.
and I brought it along because I think they're really at the top of their game in terms of natural wine production. Whether or not they would use the words natural, I think they're quite happy with that description of them as a producer. But certified organic and no additives. It's their Helical Rise 2021. They've since released a 2022. Very much about that sort of like they produce small amounts, it's released, all sold out.
Super fresh.
Yeah, really fresh. And I think you'll note this is only 11.5%. So they're big fans of picking early, and then it means just getting a bit techy, low pHs, so you're much less inclined to sort of get kind of any bacterial faults and things like that.
So they're using work in the vineyard to potentially stabilise their wines in the future.
Totally. It's all about the vineyard.
And stabilise their wines. Explain that a little bit.
I think it sort of goes back to the concern of it's sort of capturing the wine at a point where you think, this is what I want to put out there. That's where that sort of whole sulphur comes into it. It's a great way to capture the wine. It stops microbial action in the wine.
Right.
And that's what sulphur is like awesome for, because it stops it where you see it.
So does that mean that you taste it? You taste it at a certain point, and you're like, "This is exactly what I want it to be," and then that's when you kind of add the sulphur.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to think about it. That like wine is a drink that's somewhere between grape juice and vinegar, and every wine producer is looking at that moment where they're going to grab it.
Yeah.
And I think with wines that have no preservative, that point that they've grabbed doesn't stay as fixed.
Right, I see. It's constantly evolving.
Yeah, and that's another clarification on the sulphur additive too, because there are some wineries who will say, we wouldn't call ourselves natural, but we only add sulphur at bottling, which means that they actually only add a little bit as they bottle to make sure that the wine that's in the bottle arrives to perhaps an export market, tasting how they want it to taste and how it tasted when they put it into the bottle. But then there are other times during the process where you would introduce sulphur. So it's sort of that's back to that sort of sulphur thing. There's sort of a whole lot of ways that natural winemakers or winemakers would
it's not
qualify.
just a case of yes, I add sulphur.
Yeah, that's
or
right.
no, I don't. Or okay.
Yeah, that's right. But this is delicious.
Any
really,
really lovely.
Yeah, so skin contact Pinot Gris, I
Yeah.
think.
Oh, cool.
I think.
Yeah.
Definitely one of my favourite ones.
Yeah,
It's really lovely. It's fresh. It's got sort of a lovely sort of tropical fruitiness to it.
Yeah.
It's got nice clean acidity, so it finishes. It's still got nice length, so it's really lovely.
Yeah. I think they're really leading the pack, and actually it's really exciting to see in Hawke's Bay because that's quite a conventional wine industry down there. So to see this kind of new wave,
it's a good little pocket, isn't there, down there of exciting producers.
there really is. Yeah,
Three Fates,
Amoirs, so Amy Farnsworth.
Chaos and Harmony. Hayden's down there, is he? Does
Yeah.
he grow? Is he
Organised
growing
Chaos.
Hayden? Organised Chaos. Chaos and Harmony. It's a complete-
Yeah, he's Hawke's Bay.
Yeah.
I really enjoy his wines.
Yeah,
He's going great guns, isn't he?
I
Yeah.
think he is. Yeah,
And is Supernatural still, because he was at Supernatural, were they still trucking along?
I actually don't know. I haven't seen those ones.
They
around.
are, yeah. It's Greg.
Colin.
Yeah.
Who's the winemaker? Do we know?
No, I don't know who they've got.
Interesting. I think that's the other side too that I quite like about natural wine, even just with the kind of the stepping off the, how a wine bottle should look, means you kind of get a bit more fascinated in the producer.
Yeah,
And I don't know if it's because it feels like it's a small batch.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's coming from the industry, if you're used to kind of seeing what bigger wineries might sort of how they feel they need to comply.
Well, it's compliance, right, and also steeped in tradition. So it's how they've done it for a couple of 100 years or whatever it might be. But I mean, I know for me, labels, like I definitely choose on label. Like I'll go into a wine store and my eyes naturally go to label. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
totally. It's part of the kind of the sensory experience of wine, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the winemaker does absolutely everything, from the ground. They'll do the viticulture, soil health, microbial health, vine health, leaf plucking in summer, all that time, no sleep in harvest, putting it in a bottle or putting it in a tank, then putting it in a barrel, fermentation, wild yeasts, all of that stuff that makes a wine. And then a year later, they'll release it in general. The consideration for them often is the label should be the last fucking thing you have to think about because they have just spent their entire life savings, they're in debt to the bank, and they've missed out on sleep. They didn't go to a wedding because it's harvest right at the time of their, I mean, they literally, it's like everything in their soul goes into that bottle, and now you're going to tell them that, I mean, it's all great and all, but I don't really like your label. They're like, fuck you. Whereas the consumer starts at the label and works backwards.
Yes.
So for them, it's actually, fuck, that's a cool looking bottle. Who's that?
It just has to be.
Where does it come from?
Just has to be a consideration, though. It has to be, because that's how people not only buy wine, that's how people buy things.
Where I remember sort of saying to one client, look, that label, you've just spent a couple of $100,000 on a wind machine to protect your crop from frost. But you don't want to spend 20 or 30 grand on getting a really good designer to make a really great looking label.
And to tell your story, because that's...
that makes someone pick it off the shelf. You've got, you want, it has to get into their hand.
Yeah.
You have to, there's no point in writing anything on the back label if they don't pick the bottle up.
Which is something, I think, just going back to natural wine, which is, quite exciting in the natural wine scene, there's some fucking cool labels out there, right?
Shall we try no spittoon? What are we going to do? Oh my god!
See at the bottom.
Like it's low alcohol.
Tell us about.
So speaking of labels, I think this is a great
absolute banger.
Great way to go to it. It's got a awesome panda with a corkscrew in his right hand and a Lamidia bottle in his left hand. So this producer is called Lamidia.
What's a Lamidia bottle?
Lamidia is the producer.
Oh, Lamidia bottle.
Okay. So this is another one of their other bottles with the little hand. Sorry, John.
Definitely one of the really great sort of natural natty wine producers coming out of Italy. Couple of childhood friends from Abruzzo, and this is 90% Moscato and then 10% Montepulciano.
Do they call it rosé?
Oh, wow.
It is. Well, you know, like it's a little bit skin contacty. Yeah.
I actually recently, and I think this is quite an interesting thing, only found out like about rosé and orange wine and what, or, like, what's the difference between calling it like a light red and a rosé? It's a winemaker's choice.
It's a spectrum, I suppose.
Spectrum.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
Yeah. And that's a great way to think about orange wine. It's like orange wine is white wine, but at the other skin contact end of the spectrum.
So so like how much?
So I think this conversation came around like when we were trying wine that was deemed a light red.
Organised chaos gamete.
Yes.
Or
didn't realise he did it.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
And it looked like rosé, and I was like, why is this not rosé?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people don't.
Well, skin contact is probably something for the normies that's worth explaining, because it is sort of one of those things. It's a little bit why a champagne can look like a white wine, but it might be made from
Pinot Noir.
And that's just literally no skin contact. Yeah. Or conversely, a rosé, like a sparkling rosé.
But again, I think skin contact has been adopted, maybe not intentionally, by the natural wine movement.
Yeah, the
I think
orange wine
it's
thing.
grouped together.
Yeah.
I think when I think natural wine, like words that come into my head are skin contact, orange,
Yeah.
you know,
Amber.
beyond with others, but
The skin contact thing's important because it definitely is. Orange wine is, I reckon, the poster child, as I think you mentioned earlier, Pete. You know, it is kind of like, Pete Nat and orange wine are kind of the two things that I guess drive the bus. But it is kind of, I mean, most wines have skin contact, right? And it's sort of an important part of getting complexity and flavour into the wine. So it's kind of just understanding that, generally speaking, when it's had skin contact, most wine will have had skin contact, but when you're talking about it in a specific like that, there's an insinuation that it's had more skin contact than normal, perhaps. Like an exaggerated time on skin.
Yes, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, that is a really good point.
Most obvious example of skin contact wine is red wine.
That's right, exactly.
You know,
that's right.
Yeah.
so you know you're working with extracting colour, flavour from the skins, which is with red wine, with the exception of a few random varieties like Saperavi and things like that, that actually has red juice.
Yeah.
It's Georgian.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. So the
spot
skin's red and the pulp's red too.
Yeah,
so the whole
yeah.
thing's actually a red grape.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Whereas most red grape varieties, the juice is clear and the skin
Colour comes
is
from the
where,
skin.
yeah. So you're working on how much time you're giving that juice contact with the skins and how you're working that. So whether how much you're extracting.
And the flavour aspect of that is in the acidity, right? So that's where the tannins sit between the pulp and the skin. Is that right? Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
This is delicious, though.
It's quite different than Halcyon Days for me. I'm still, Halcyon's definitely my preference at this stage.
There's a little sort of
Stop it.
it's a little
Yeah.
it's a little it's not a store-bought strawberry, it's a wild strawberry for sure, isn't it?
Totally is.
That is very
No, it totally is.
diplomatic
That's
way
right.
of saying that.
It is. It's definitely got that sort of wild,
Yeah.
sort of strawy. There's a grassiness to it.
Yeah.
Without wanting to say,
Say it.
it's too...
Just say it. Just say it.
I mean, Halcyon's definitely cleaner.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
More, and not as skin contacty. I'm not using the right words, but it's not as... It doesn't taste as skin contacty to me. It's much
Halcyon.
more like a white wine.
I'd almost want some saline-y, like I mean, I don't know, would olives be the right thing to go eat with that? Or maybe, I don't know, like even like a nice fatty salami or something that's not
Well, I was
anything
actually
too.
thinking of your pork tacos from last night.
Yeah.
What did you last night?
Carnitas.
Shout out to the
Yeah,
pork
yeah.
tacos.
Okay,
Absolutely
talk us through the pork tacos.
delicious.
What was in the pork
John,
tacos?
Just,
take it away.
Just a little pork shoulder, slow cooked for a few hours in a bit of a stock, and then just pulled apart essentially,
And then fried. I think
Yeah.
that isn't that the key
Yeah, right.
element with
Bit of
the
fat.
Yeah,
But
Yeah,
it's like this
protein and fat.
Exactly.
delicious
Yeah.
pineapple chili thing going on.
Salsa.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Salsa.
see, because that's almost got that kind of pineapple-y, there's something
The
that is
spikiness.
sort of, yeah, that's right. That's where that sort of grippy, you know, when a pineapple has got that sort of, it's just before it gets too sweet.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's in there.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
amazing.
That's so
Yeah.
true.
okay, well, there's a food match right there.
Yeah.
Love it.
And I think
Oh, here was my invitation. Well, when you come
Next
to Raglan,
time-
that's what you guys are
Next
cooking.
time we need to bring some food along with
Donald do the veggie
Totally.
garden and
Yeah,
cook
totally.
dinner.
Yeah, I love it.
But I think you're right with the food thing. Like I always remember when I was doing tastings in London at a restaurant there, and they would always have
Got a
plate.
name drop, Roberts. It was the river. It was the river.
I'm so
cafe.
sorry.
No,
Just that old place.
This little place called the River Cafe,
Bit run
but
down.
they would have plates of charcuterie
Yeah.
as you're tasting, and
Yeah.
it was honestly like
Yeah.
it made such a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually one of the interesting things on natural wine too. I do struggle a bit more with natural wine with food matching because I don't really know what's going to be in the glass until it's in the glass.
Yeah,
That's
interesting.
fair.
Yeah.
And so there's no kind of like, what am I having? Like if you're in a restaurant environment and it's kind of like, oh, here's the menu. It's like, I really like the look of that fish. So I'll choose a wine that might last through that fish dish.
Yeah.
But with natural wine, I'm less inclined to kind of know, even if I know the great variety, I'm less inclined to know how it's actually going to be presented.
Yeah, right.
So I'm sort of a little
I
less
suppose
sure.
that talks to probably a little bit like the natural wine sort of scene in general. Is there's a little bit more variation as opposed to
When I think there's more hand cell required, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So on that, not to put you on the spot, Pete, but like, you know, a little skin contact natural wine. Is there anything that you would look to pair with it?
Well, I think about some things there that the sort of acidity that we're used to with white wines is often lower. It's not that sort of citrusy line through the palate.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at something with skin contact, that acidity has naturally it actually is one way to reduce acidity because potassium binds up tartaric acid.
Little red
we
card.
ran out.
wow, is that 2 red cards?
Yeah, he's definitely on the sideline for a little bit. You're on the
That's
bench
it
for the
really
next
is right.
5
But we
minutes.
need you for this, so
Anyway, so you tend to get these kind of less acidic, more textural ones.
Yeah.
But then you're thinking about you've still got a sort of like a nice contrasting element, which is phenolic, as you touched on. So that element that's going to cut through things. So fatty foods, I think, are really appropriate when it comes to skin contact wines.
yeah.
Are natural wines more expensive in general? Like, are we seeing an increase in price in natural wines?
I would say
good
that's a bit
point.
down to the scale of production that it tends to come from smaller producers, so they need to ask a little bit more, and ideally, as we said, natural wine being organic and
Things
it
are done by
does fetch a
hand.
little bit more. Yeah, things are a bit more expensive. Maybe there's also a little bit of cool factor, but I think generally it's more about the size of producer that they, to exist need to.
Totally. And I think what we've seen, especially in Australia, where like you said, they're probably 5 to 10 years ahead of where we are with natural wine in New Zealand. Maybe is that it's a really low bar to enter the sort of producing minimal or natural wines, because all you do need
Like urban sort of winery kind of.
a lot of originally a lot of Australian natural wine producers were just buying contract fruit.
And this sort of all kicked off at a time when there was this wine lake in Australia. You know, there's a lot of fruit and not
Huge
enough
amounts,
people to drink it.
And I wonder, like, I don't want to name names, but I'm going to.
Go for it.
Like, when Patrick Sullivan started making wine, do you know what I mean?
There's an in-joke. I don't know the in-joke. What's the in-joke?
It was quite whack.
They were like what you were talking about when people would give you natural wine originally.
Yeah.
They were pretty
Funky.
they were pretty funky.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times potentially not balanced or showing a few of the more sort of faults that you'd see.
As opposed to, I suppose my point on that is now I actually think his wines are delicious.
His wines are
but
amazing.
I actually think that they were quite different when he... So maybe I'm just talking about those low barriers to entry, or potentially... You're talking about that start of the natural wine movement where maybe more of the ones that you're sort of talking about. I feel like in general across the industry we've probably come quite a long way. Like...
For sure.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what's really exciting about the natural wine movement, is that with it becoming hopefully less binary and more of a grey area, across the board you've got better quality. And I think especially in New Zealand, because maybe our natural wine scene is a little bit later to the table.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
A lot of the kind of like rigmarole of people experiencing faulty wines, New Zealand producers will have overcome that hurdle already. Like we tasted with that halcyon, clean, delicious,
That's right.
a definitive style, a natural wine, but in a really appealing sort of modern, fresh style.
I think also one of the ingredients to my natural wine making sort of entrance to was a mental barrier. You know, there was probably already, if I'm totally honest, a slightly preconceived opinion of
it's
gonna be a bit shit.
It's absolutely the old man get off my lawn thing.
Yeah.
You know, like
what are you trying to... I mean, the New Zealand wine industry's, I mean, God, I can't remember quite exactly what it's worth, but it's you know, it's a pretty good contributor to our national economy.
It certainly is.
Yeah. And I think that's the other part of it that makes me... That's why embracing natural wine production in New Zealand is so important, while remembering the people who have done the graft to get it started. Because I think we don't look back and say, well, I'm 26th generation and my family's been making wine for 300 years. We literally go, yeah, mum and dad, I mean... Well, certainly from personal experience, you know, Dad was a school teacher and Mum was a physio, and they did, well, Laurie, you do the viticulture and I'll do the winemaking, and we'll learn, you know, do correspondence from EIT while we're still doing our day jobs, and we'll turn a cow paddock into a vineyard because there's some really great results from the Clyde Dam about temperature control. You know, literally, let's give it a crack.
And in every single New Zealand wine region, there is a really amazing handful of producers who are exactly that same thing.
Yeah, totally. And so, you know, and also, you know, I mean, you know, without wanting to make anyone cry, I mean, Mum and Dad bought 50 acres for 150,000.
Yeah, wow.
Which, you know, that's a sign of the old times there. But, you know, the vineyard they planted was immediately too small to be actually of the right economy of scale to be actually commercial, right from day one. The minute there was enough fruit on those vines to actually be harvested for wine, they were too small, and the economy of scale was not right.
Does that not make you think that New Zealand is like perfectly suited to adopt natural wine as like a real movement forward?
Yeah.
All about small producers.
Yeah.
We do things off the cuff. We are very resourceful.
Super creative as well.
Huge elements of the ethos of natural wine.
The one thing we've got to do is we've got to change the bar around being accredited sustainable because 96% of New Zealand vineyards are certified accredited sustainable producers, and that is not organic. Sustainable fruit is not organic fruit. They are still able to use Roundup or glyphosate products on their farms, even if they're accredited sustainable. And I'm not bagging farmers that feel that that's still a legitimate practice, but, you know, as we've established, an understanding of natural wine without it being fraudulent means the fruit has to be organic.
It's that holistic sort of view, and it's in the vineyard and also in the winemaking process, right?
Yeah.
It's everything has to talk.
Yeah, and to the labels, you know, there's a real focus on design and like creativity and that kind of perspective. It follows all the way through.
I think the organic conversation versus sustainable certification is a really interesting one, and I think it's probably one of the ways that New Zealand can continue to compete internationally.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, as far as the scale of our production in Marlborough is a bit of an exception, but there are people like the Flower Days down there doing amazing work at scaling organics in Marlborough that we should be. It's so easy for me to sit here and say this, but we have an opportunity to be, you know, one of the most organic countries in the world in terms of our wine industry. And Central Otago, perhaps by virtue of the size of the producers down there, tend to be smaller, but they have the highest proportion of organic certified vineyards. Up to, you know, people like Amersfield have just, you know, got organic certification. Peregrine, they're not small producers. They're sort of 100 or so hectares.
But it fits in with that whole New Zealand clean, green sort of image that, you know, gets marketed to the world.
Yeah, and our you know,
which is the future. You know,
it is, and the wine industry is literally now a part of our landscape.
I guess one of the hurdles, I suppose, is the fact that in general that organic farming does tend to produce a lower yield, which means less juice, which means
higher price, and that's a consumer conversation. Are you prepared to pay a higher price for that? And it's sort of a you know, that's problematic, I think, with trying to get some of these producers who have been, you know, it's a big call to, I mean, I know some producers who are certified organic, but when they plant new vines, they don't allow those vines to be organic until they're at least 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
Because it's so problematic in those early years of the vine, you know, development stage, that in order to protect it and make that vine have its best chance, they still adhere to a conventional way of thinking. And that would be worth looking into too, right? Like, well, why is that? Like, what is it? How hard is it to be organic? Yeah, it's definitely, it feels like the right thing to do. Absolutely. And I think the sustainable, like those accredited sustainable vineyards are still people who are passionate about the direction of heading that way. And they definitely see the value in having that kind of New Zealand being that sustainable. Like, it's a great thing for a country to say that we've got 96% of our vineyards that are accredited sustainable. But then again, that's that qualification of what does that even mean?
Sustainability,
yeah.
I think the thing when we sort of think about the future of our industry is that the growth of land under vine has slowed. There's not the boom of planting. Marlborough is still sort of growing, but even that will have to slow down eventually. There's only so much land that can be planted with Sauvignon Blanc. So how do we continue to, you know, separate ourselves?
Push forward.
Yeah, and also, you know, you've got more vine age, so you've got more stable kind of viticulture, essentially, stronger plants. So it really, like, I don't know, it's just, for me, it seems like it's such a great projection for our industry.
Yeah, totally.
Especially when we've always marketed ourselves as a premium wine growing country. We haven't come from potentially making bulk wine. Like, we're already driving those high price point
we're still in the UK are the highest average bottle price
Are
of
we?
any country.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and we know that France sells, Romani Conti, and
But they
the
also sell a
most
lot of
expensive
cheap
wines in the world.
Yeah, they also
but-
sell a lot of cheap stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's
on
like
average,
it's like someone said. Who we were talking to the other day. That was like the natural wine movement is like what craft beer was like 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, was that our sister?
No.
Oh, what did she say? No, what did she?
She calls natural wine kombucha juice.
Yeah.
So there was a older gentleman that we met in the city.
Oh, that's right.
There's a
Family
really
friend,
good.
yeah.
There's a really good point there because craft beer is not a designated.
There's no rulings around it at all.
No, absolutely, and it's also something
Yeah, so
that
that's the thing, right?
has been commercialized in a huge way by now massive breweries.
100%. And if you look on the world stage, like New Zealand was at the forefront of that craft beer movement, and still to this day are known as,
A pretty good
one of the
craft beer
leaders.
producers.
Yeah.
But is that the future for the natural wine movement? And that's why I say I'm post-natural, because
Pete's leading the charge of the next call.
Yeah. We will hear people talking about post-natural and be like, sorry,
Totally.
what?
it's not a thing. Don't start
Ask
saying
about
that.
KJ stuff.
No, but what we were sort of already seeing in the rollers in Australia was Dan Murphy's, who's an enormously powerful buyer there, getting into that scene in a very commercial way.
Yeah.
They're not organic vineyards and things like that, but it's
Tapping into the
marketed
demographic.
totally. As
That's what it's about.
Natural wine.
And I suppose that's the only problem for me is it's like, there's certain people, I suppose, that can jump on the bandwagon that are potentially not from that sort of holistic approach. So
Yeah.
they'd actually just...
And see, interestingly, I've got quite a few mates who are now actually, they're post-craft beer.
Yeah.
They're like,
yeah.
oh man, a bit over
Yeah.
it. Like
What
I
are they?
just...
Come
Give me
full
something in
circle,
a green
Yeah,
bottle.
they're back to drinking Heineken.
Yeah.
I just want something
Yeah.
crisp
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
just,
I want to refresh it, mate. I just want to drink a beer while I'm talking to my mates. I do not want to have to some
meal.
cerebral breakdown of...
I want a meal in a...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not...
But and that's exactly like there are breweries in New Zealand that are craft breweries that have heavily invested in technology and beer setups that is all about time, all about efficiency, all about control. So I don't know, and it's all computer run, these systems. So I'm not sure what craft is there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're
Again,
making
it's
some
an
amazing
umbrella.
beer.
Yeah, it's an umbrella
Precision,
term
I
that I
guess.
think is just...
Yeah.
But see, I think that's maybe something that the natural wine movement, potentially needs to look out for, is that I definitely do think natural wine kind of has that opportunity to sort of be what craft beer was to New Zealand. But I think learning from that is how to retain the sort of the experimental innovation aspect of it.
Yeah.
So that kind of everything else can...
It's a
buffer it
long-term thing. It's not just a...
But that's why I think it'll fizzle out. A bit like craft beer has.
How much are you
slash
willing to
will.
bet?
Yeah, so
What's your-
hold on. Let's get- So you are saying natural wine will fizzle out.
It will fizzle
Or do you
out.
think
Yeah.
people will get over trying to put it in a box? It'll just become wine.
It will just become wine, and we'll have.
Yeah.
You'll go down to the store, and there'll be your section of pet nats and your section of rosé and
But it's all
Pinot
just
Noir
wine.
and orange wine.
Wine, yeah.
But there's not going to be like a natural wine section.
yeah.
I think that,
Yeah.
and in the
Which
same
is
way
kind
beer has.
of great.
Yeah, well,
Super great.
I think
And
that's
the
where.
goal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Where it's sort of not the click. It's actually just what a beautiful range of incredible wine to select from
Yeah.
and have a crack at. Thanks very much for listening to Not Serious Wine Chats. We hope you enjoyed it. We'd just like to take a moment to thank our mates at Antipodes Water Company for their support.